Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring from NotThatHardToHomeschool.com.
Self-paced, no prep for you. It's the homeschool math curriculum I wish I'd started with sooner. Try it free today. Just head to ctcmath.com. That's ctcmath.com. You're going to breathe easier.
Hey friends, if you're homeschooling a middle or high school student, or you've got college on your radar at all, there's an important conversation going on, and it is this. 25% of colleges are scheduled to close in the next decade. So I want to talk to you about that and what smart families are doing instead of worrying about if the college they choose is going to close or not. This is not a clickbait headline. It's coming straight from university leaders themselves. So today, let's talk about what's happening, why it is happening, what it means for families and our kids, obviously, and how to make smart, future-proof education decisions in the middle of all these changes. Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Nehring. I own and operate It's Not That Hard to Homeschool. It is not that hard to homeschool, and we're so glad you're here. Listen, if you're watching this live, let me know in the comments where you're checking in from and if you plan on having your kids go to college. This has to do with you and the plans that you're making as you prepare your kids for their future. So it's an important discussion. We are living through a massive shift in higher education. College isn't disappearing, but the version of college that most of us grew up with is changing fast. So if we're getting our kids ready to launch like we did, we're about 20 years behind the times. And today I want to walk through what's actually driving college closures, why families are questioning the return on the investment of college, how students can still earn accredited degrees without gambling their future or drowning in debt. So you ready? Because there's a lot here. Let's just get started with the problem. This is the reality nobody wants to say out loud. We have too many colleges and not enough students. Birth rates are down, and roughly 1/3 of the generation that would be Gen Z was never born. It's not a moral issue. It's not just a moral issue, but it's reshaping schools, colleges, and the future workforce. Enrollment is just down. Tuition is up. And families are asking the hard question. Is a 4-year degree really worth 6 figures of debt? Now, many small private colleges rely almost entirely on tuition, and when enrollment dips, the math doesn't work anymore. COVID didn't just cause this problem, but it really did accelerate it. We all saw a big shift in education when COVID came around, and actually a couple of years later when everybody went back to normal. Online learning normalized alternatives. Families realized learning doesn't have to look the same to be legitimate, right? Now, here's the deal. Students and families are not anti-college. They're anti-debt and anti-wasting time. And these are good conversations and thoughts to be having. So let's go to the shift to return on investment driven education. I think this is an important shift because of the deregulation of student loans. A lot of kids are graduating, well, with on average $37,000 in debt, but a lot of them have much more debt than that. And if it's not in an industry that is going to withstand AI and other societal forces and shifts and disruptions, they might have a lot of debt without a way to pay it back. That is really a critical conversation to have with your kids. Families want shorter timelines to getting the degree, clear outcomes, transferable credits, which not all credit is the same, and education that connects to real world skills and workforce related activities. In other words, can I go to work and can I get paid enough to pay off the debt I took for this college degree? Employers are increasingly value students for what they can do, the skills that they come with, not just where their diploma came from. That's actually kind of a shift in the workforce too, because it used to be that the degree, where you got your degree from and the diploma and that used to be like the card to get in, to have an interview, to get the job. And that's just not so anymore. That's changed and shifted too. And so we're seeing a lot more dual degree pathways, accredited micro-credentialing, stackable degrees, and portfolio-based learning. I don't think this is the worst thing ever, honestly. I think it's what homeschoolers have always done is that we've hacked the traditional models and come up with new and unique ways of doing things, and everybody's cluing in that it's a great way to think about education too. Globally, education is moving away from long, expensive detours where you're just detoured out of real life and you're just a student for years on end. And it's more towards outcome-based pathways. I was talking to one of my kids this last week, and they were saying that a lot of their friends just go from undergrad to graduate to even a doctoral program because they can't see how to pay off the debt for the student loans that they've already taken out. And so they're just going into more and more debt to try to put off the point where they have to start paying it all back. And so it's a long, expensive detour. Most of our kids are graduating in 6 years, not 4 with an undergraduate degree. So if they graduate at 18, they might not even be not even graduated till they're 24 to 26. And if they can graduate earlier, they have a half a decade of earning power under their belt that kids who are in school all that time aren't making that money, right? So we're watching college evolve from a 4-year detour into a career launch runway, and I personally think that's a good thing. What should you actually do with this information? This is what I tell families all the time in the workshops that I do live, when we're doing academic advising, etc. Evaluate the return on investment before enrolling in a college. So the cost versus the earning power matters. Now, a lot of us have a really good idea of if our kids are college material. And what I mean is, can they go to college and can they really thrive and succeed in a college environment academically? But we really have to look at the whole picture. It's not just academic, it's social, it's emotional, etc. A lot of kids are going into college like as healthy, robust kids, and a lot of them are getting serious mental health diagnoses within a year of them going to college. They're renouncing their faith just a couple months after they go. There's a lot of issues going on with college right now that go far and away above the academics, and I'm not anti-college. If you've heard me talk before, you know that I have several degrees, and so does my husband. So we're really pretty pro academics, but it's got to make sense. And I think a lot of families need to really talk to their kids about the return on the investment. Is this degree going to really get us a return on the investment? And you need to have that conversation while they're still in high school, maybe even junior high, because if they're not going to go into a career field that can withstand AI, that makes sense to take out debt with, that might not be a good return on investment. And I don't just mean financial investment. I mean ROI and ROT, return on financial investment and return on time. So I follow this one gal online, and she said that she only talked to her kids about going to college if they were going to pick one of 4 college majors: engineering, computer science, the medical field, and there was one more I'm losing track of, but she also wanted them to be able to get advanced degrees from those undergraduate degrees if they needed to too, so that it was a stackable program, because she felt like those are the only degrees right now that really make sense about the return on investment. Now, I do think understanding where the field of work is going is going to be really important. So there are emerging economies. There's AI, of course, the precision economy, robotics, but also the empath economy. So you've got these really heavy STEM fields over here, and then you've got the empath economy over here. And what the empath economy is just really, it's counselors, it's therapists, it's chiropractors, it's PTs, anybody who can touch you spiritually or physically, and take care of you in that way. That's also an emergent economy. So as we get more STEM oriented, we're going to get more empath oriented as well. And so anyway, just something to think about, the ROI. Ask hard questions. What are the completion rates of students who start in that program? What are the placement rates? Does the college help your student get a job when they get the degree? And what's the transfer success? Will they take and transfer credits, either AP or dual degree or dual enrollment, coming into the program? And if your student decides not to stay at that school, will they transfer to another school or university successfully? Now, transfer success is an important thing to think about, because with all these colleges closing, what happens is those credits don't always transfer. And if they do, they might transfer as electives, but not in the field of study that the students need. So one of my sons went to a small classical college that closed the year after he graduated. And thankfully, he got his degree from that school and moved on debt free. But his friend a year behind him wasn't so lucky. And even though that school had a partner college and university that said, we'll take your students, we'll take the credits, they did not take all the credits for the areas that they needed to go in, like the humanities, the math requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So this student who graduated a year after my son did, she had to do an extra year of undergrad to graduate, even though that school promised to transfer credits. And they did technically as an elective, but not in the specific graduation requirement sections. So you really want to think about that, and make sure that whatever college you're looking at is truly financially viable, because 25% of colleges and universities closing in the next decade is a huge number of colleges and universities. So you need to ask hard questions of the college and universities that you're thinking about having your kids go to too. And teach your kids how to ask those hard questions. This is a return on the investment. And look, if we went to buy a car or a used car, we're all asking those questions, right? We're looking up the gas mileage, we're looking up who manufactured it, what the safety values are, all those kind of things. And that's on a car. That's a one-time investment. And think about college. It's like multiples on top of the cost of a car. So ask those hard questions. And then consider accelerated or dual degree options. It's absolutely possible for students to earn 2 accredited degrees for less than the cost of a traditional path. That's what we offer at True North Academy. Students can earn an associate's degree or even a 4-year bachelor's degree while they're in high school, 2 accredited degrees, 2 transcripts that they're graduating with from True North and our partner university or college. So there are options out there, and this can save so much time and so much money. You also want to prioritize accreditation and alignment, not brand prestige. Now, I know there used to be this big deal. If you went to an Ivy League or a military academy, there was so much prestige attached to that. And I want to set the military academy aside because that's its own unique life style and all those kind of things. But for a prestigious university, the stats say that if you are not born into a prestigious kind of environment, even if you go to a high prestige college, when you graduate, that doesn't follow you just because you went to that school. And so I think that's important for us to think about. I live in South Dakota, and if you have the test scores, you can go to an Ivy League pretty much paid for if you apply and have the packet done and everything like that. But are you going to really, is that prestige going to follow you and help you in a way that's going to be worth the cost, as far as time and investment, all those kind of things. So very important to talk about that brand prestige. You want to really make sure the college or university is accredited and it's aligned with your values and the degrees that you're looking at. The smartest move right now is don't leave education behind. It's choosing education that is actually working. Now, one of the things I've always emphasized in every kind of teaching environment I've been in or any program that I've started or run, which I've done multiple, is skills. We want the kids to leave with more skills than they came in with, because otherwise, what's the point? We want to add to their life, and that's what true education really does. It's a transmission of culture, and part of culture is having skills to interface and interact with the world in a successful manner. So really be careful about the educational situations that you're putting your kids in right now, and decide for yourself and for your kids, is this educational model really working for us? So looking ahead, here's what I see. There's going to be fewer institutions, but the ones that last are going to be stronger. And there's going to be far more remote and hybrid models of college and university. Credential marketplaces instead of rigid pipelines. Now, when I was graduating from high school, my graduating class either went to work or we went to college. And there was no like somebody's better than somebody else because they went to work or college. We had somebody who went to West Point for my graduating class, somebody who went to MIT, somebody who went to Caltech. And we had a lot of kids who just went to work. And then many of us went to small liberal colleges or the state school, and it was all okay. It was just a different path for all of us. But that kind of attitude has really changed a lot. And so I'm glad that we're kind of getting back to this idea that what your path is good for you if you've really thought it through and it makes sense for you. So there's no value judgment. It's just what makes the most sense for you and how are you going to make it work. So credential marketplaces instead of rigid pipelines. This college for all has been a complete disaster for everybody, in my opinion. Probably a different conversation. But dual degree and return on investment oriented programs are not fringe anymore. They're becoming mainstream, and the education market is finally catching up to what smart students and families have already figured out. Here is the bottom line. Higher education is in transition, but with every disruption and transition, there's opportunity everywhere if you choose wisely. And that's why we've started the dual degree program at True North Academy, where students earn 2 accredited degrees. There's a clear return on investment and a clear return on time. It's a faster, more affordable pathway, and it's built for where education is really going, not for where it's been. So if you want clarity instead of chaos, I would love to help you. My team is standing by. You can DM me for an academic advising session. And listen, this program is not for everybody. It's not going to be a heavy duty sales job. If it's not right for you, we don't want you in the program, because one of the things I do not like is wasting anybody's time or money, mine or yours. So if you want to find out more about the dual degree program at True North Academy, we're offering both an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, fully accredited through our partner schools and universities. Shoot me a DM and I'll set you up with an advising appointment. But either way, parents, realize 25% of colleges and universities are going to be closing in the next 10 years. That's a lot of colleges and universities. So no matter where you're planning on having your kids go to college or university, ask about their financial viability. That's not anything that should be private. They should be more than willing to discuss that with you. Ask about transfer credits. Ask about if they close, what's their plan. Make sure that you're investing well, because if they close in the middle of your student's college career, you're going to have lost a lot of time and money either which way. So, okay, there's a lot going on in the field and world of education right now. I hope this has been helpful to you as you're planning for your kids' future. And listen, we all want to see our kids launch successfully and have the skills and tools that they need to have a beautiful life, right? This is just one more thing to consider, is how and if a college degree makes sense for your student now. So would love to hear what your thoughts are about it, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.